sampling techniques. Our learning outcomes. At the end of the video, students will be able to understand what is probability sampling, comprehend the different types of probability sampling, identify when to use probability sampling. My scope is discussing only the probability sampling, and my delimitation is not discussing about non-probability sampling, meaning to say I'm going to have a separate video for non-probability sampling. Let us start. In statistics, sampling is when researchers determine a representative segment of a larger population that is then used to conduct a study. Example, this is the total population and a certain researcher would like to study this population. Therefore, the researcher needs to identify sample size to represent this larger population, which is this sample size. Okay? So, sampling comes in two forms: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Again, I would like to reiterate that we will not discuss about non-probability sampling. I have a separate video on this. Probability sampling is a sampling technique wherein the samples are gathered in a process that gives all the individuals in the population equal chances of being selected. Meaning to say, if this is our population, all of these individuals inside the population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay? So, probability sampling is a sampling technique in which the researcher chooses samples from a larger population and using a method based on the theory of probability for a participant to be considered as a probability sample. He or she must be selected using a random selection. So let us start with the different types of probability sampling. All right. The first type of probability sampling is simple random sampling. This is the easiest form of probability sampling. What the researcher needs to do is assure that all the members of the population are included in the list and then randomly select the desired number of subjects. This is, for example, the population which contains 12 individuals. And probability sampling, as we say, every individual inside the population has the equal chance of being selected. Now, what technique are you going to do? If you are going to use a simple random sampling, there are many techniques. Here is one method. Mechanically, picking strips of paper with names written on it, and then you have to draw lots and place those lots inside a box or hat, while the researcher, can be blindfolded or it could be not looking on the box or inside the box and choose the different lots. That is one. Another, it could be as easy as using a computer software to do the random selection for you. So that's the second method for using the simple random sampling. But here in our example, we have 13 individuals inside the population, and I started on the number 2 individual, and then every third is the selection of the sample. Like for example, start with 2, 1, 2, 3 is 5, 1, 2, 3 is 8, 1, 2, 3 is 13. So meaning to say 2, 5, 8, and 13 are my samples size for the population using the simple random sampling. The second type of probability sampling is the stratified random sampling. This is preferred because than simple random sampling because the statistical outcome is more precise when you are using the stratified random sampling, and that is one. Now, researchers usually use stratified random sampling if they want to study a particular subgroup within the population. Again, our example here is this population. No? This is our population. This population or subjects, they are going to be grouped, okay, into different classifications. Example is the demographics, age, socioeconomic status, gender, or it could be race and ethnicity groups. Then the next step is that the researcher randomly selects the final list of subjects from the different strata. It is very relevant to note that all the strata must have no overlaps. Let's take an example of this one. Let's say we want to study the different race and ethnic groups in the United States. So, the population could be a combination of Native Americans, Asian Americans, African Americans, and Hispanic Americans. That is the total population. Now, we are going to use stratified random sampling because we want to study race and ethnic groups in the United States. Therefore, we are going to do our strata contribution. Let's say, for example, here, these black individuals, there is 40%. The gray ones, 30%, and the yellow ones is 30%. So, 40% of 20 gives you 8. 30% of 20 gives you 6. And 30% of the yellow ones gives you 6. All right. That is the strata. This column is the strata. The percentage is, it depends on the judgment of the researcher. If you want, for example, we have Native American, Asian, African, and Hispanic Americans. We have 4. Maybe we could allocate 20, 20, 20, and 40% to one race or ethnic group. So it depends on the judgment of the researcher. Here, okay, so we get, for example, the black ones, we have 8. We get 50% of 8, we have 4. 50% of 6, we get 3. And 50% of 6, we have 3. So the total of the sample size is 10 using stratified random sampling. And again, I would like to strongly reiterate that researchers prefer this type of probability sampling because it warrants more precision and reliability when it comes to its statistical outcomes. The third type of probability sampling is cluster random sampling. This is used when you have a concern or a challenge with the size of the population. Like for example, if you want to study about sustainability program of countries in Asia, that's quite a big population. No, we are talking of the Asia as a continent for your research. Therefore, you can use cluster random sampling. What you need to do is to identify the countries that are included in the research within Asia. For example, you want to study Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, South Korea. Those are the different countries in Asia. So you can use cluster random sampling. Or you can just, for example, if you want to study uh, about the early pregnancy of teenage in Quezon City. Quezon City is a very large population, so you can use cluster random sampling for that matter. So this example here, this photo, you see that there is this entire population, okay, and then there is clustering of this population. Like for example, cluster 1. So you talk about cluster 1, this one is cluster 2, and this one is cluster 3, and cluster 4. And therefore, after clustering those, you will pick your sampling or your sample size. Okay? So you can use stratified random sampling after clustering the, the population or the subjects that are included. So the researcher can either include all the individuals within the selected areas, or he can randomly select subjects from the identified areas. So that is cluster random sampling. Very nice. The last type of probability sampling is the mixed and multi-stage random sampling. It is use a combination of two or more methods of sampling. For example, in multi-stage sampling, if samples are drawn at random at one stage and drawn by a systematic method at another stage. So this mix or multi-stage random sampling is mixing the sampling techniques involved to two techniques such as probability or non-probability sampling. Or if you are using probability sampling, maybe you can use cluster sampling and stratified sample sampling, or maybe uh, clustering, sampling method, or the simple random sampling. So it's a combination of the different sampling method. And finally, when are you going to use probability sampling? Probability sampling leads to a higher quality findings because it provides an unbiased representation of the population. And you use that when you want to reduce the sampling bias. You can also use probability sampling when the population is usually diverse. Researcher or researchers use this method extensively as it helps them create samples that fully represent the entire population. Say we want to find out how many people prefer medical tourism over getting treated in their own country. This sampling method will help pick samples from various socioeconomic strata, background, etc., to represent the broader population. And another situation when to use probability sampling is to create an accurate sample. And probability sampling help researchers create accurate samples of their population. Researchers use proven statistical methods to draw a precise sample, no? Accurate and precise sample to be obtained well-defined data. So these are situations where you can use probability sampling. And that ends my tutorial video for probability sampling. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe, share, and like the channel. And I'll see you on my next tutorial about non-probability sampling. Thank you very much, and always keep safe, everyone.